I never thought I'd be the guy telling this kind of story. The kind where I'm standing in my kitchen at 3 in the morning, staring at a text that would blow my entire life apart. But there I was, phone in one hand, coffee gone cold in the other, reading the words that would change everything. I need some time to find myself. It's not you, it's me. I just need space. 5 years. 5 years of my life with Melissa, down the drain with a text message that read like it came from a bad breakup handbook. Find yourself, I muttered to the empty kitchen. Our kitchen. The one in the house I bought last year because she said she wanted to put down roots. The kitchen with the farmhouse sink she'd insisted on, the marble countertops that cost me an extra 20 grand, and the custom cabinets that took 3 months to install. My phone buzzed again. Can we talk about this in person? I'll come by tomorrow after work. I didn't reply. Instead, I went upstairs to what had been our bedroom and looked around at the half-empty closet, the vacant spaces on the dresser where her perfumes used to sit. She'd moved most of her stuff out while I was on my business trip to Chicago. 3 days away, and she'd managed to erase herself from our home like she was never there. The next evening, Melissa showed up looking like she'd just stepped out of a magazine cover. New haircut, new outfit I'd never seen before. Subtle changes that somehow made her look like a stranger. "Ryan," she said softly as I opened the door. "Thanks for seeing me." I stepped aside to let her in, noting how she hesitated before entering, like she was suddenly a guest in what had been her home for the past 2 years. "Nice haircut," I said flatly. Her hand went to her shorter, highlighted locks. "Thanks, I needed a change." Apparently. She winced at my tone but recovered quickly. We stood awkwardly in the entryway until I gestured toward the living room. She perched on the edge of the sofa while I took the armchair across from her. "So," I said, "you need to find yourself." She nodded, her eyes wide and earnest. "I do. I feel like I've lost touch with who I really am. We got together when I was 22, Ryan. I've never had a chance to figure out who I am outside of us. And you couldn't figure that out while being with me?" "It's not that simple," she said, leaning forward. "I love you, I do. But I need to know who Melissa is on her own, without being defined as Ryan's girlfriend or potentially Ryan's wife. I need to explore." I laughed without humor. "Explore, right. And what exactly does exploring entail?" Her cheeks flushed. "It means living on my own for a while. Maybe traveling, meeting new people." "Meeting new people," I repeated. "Let's be honest here, Melissa. You want to sleep with other men." "That's not fair," she protested, but her eyes darted away from mine. "Isn't it? If this was just about finding independence, you could get your own place, take some classes, find a hobby. But this break you're asking for, it's about having the freedom to be with other people without technically cheating on me. Am I wrong?" She was silent for a long moment. "I don't know what's going to happen. I just know I need this time. It's not about anyone else." "How long?" "What? How long is this break supposed to last?" She hesitated. "I don't know, a few months maybe?" I nodded slowly, a cold clarity washing over me. "And I'm supposed to what? Wait around for you to decide if I'm good enough? Put my life on hold while you explore?" "I'm not asking you to put your life on hold," she said quickly. I hope that when I figure things out, there might still be a chance for us." I stood up. "Let me be clear about something, Melissa. This isn't a pause button you can hit on our relationship. You don't get to walk out that door, live whatever fantasy you've cooked up, and then waltz back in when you're done finding yourself." Her eyes widened. "Ryan?" "No," I cut her off. "I'm not going to be your backup plan. So here's how this is going to work. You want a break? Fine. But it's a breakup, not a break. You move your remaining stuff out by the weekend. You give me back your key, and we're done." "That's not what I want," she said, her voice trembling. "I just need some time." "Well, that's what you're getting, all the time in the world, but not with me waiting in the wings." She stood up too, tears welling in her eyes. "Why are you being so cold about this? I'm trying to be honest with you." "Honest?" I laughed again. "Melissa, you packed up half your stuff while I was out of town. You've clearly been planning this for a while. Don't pretend this is some spontaneous journey of self-discovery." She flinched. I knew you'd react this way. How exactly did you expect me to react? With encouragement? Should I help you pack? Maybe recommend some guys for you to explore with. That's not fair, she repeated, a tear sliding down her cheek. Life's not fair, I said, suddenly exhausted. Look, it's getting late. I've got an early meeting tomorrow. You should go. She stared at me for a long moment. Just like that? 5 years and you're not even going to fight for us? I met her gaze steadily. There's no us to fight for if you're walking away. You made your choice, Melissa. I'm just respecting it. I still love you, she whispered. Maybe you do, I said, but not enough to stay. After she left, I poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey and walked out to the back deck. The summer night was warm, fireflies blinking in the yard. 5 years of my life gone. I had just turned 33, and suddenly I was single again. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend, Nathan. Hey man, we still on for golf Saturday? I took a sip of whiskey before replying. Yeah, and I'm gonna need a beer afterward. Melissa and I are done, you say. His response came quickly. Shit, what happened? She needs to find herself. I'll fill you in Saturday. Sorry, bro, that sucks. I'm here if you need anything before then. I put my phone away and looked up at the stars. Part of me wanted to call Melissa, to tell her to come back, that we could work through whatever was going on with her, but a stronger part knew that would be a mistake. She had made her decision. Now I had to live with mine. The first week was the hardest. I kept expecting to hear her key in the lock, to smell her perfume when I walked into a room. I'd reach for her in the middle of the night, only to find cold, empty sheets. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office and bringing projects home on the weekends. Nathan dragged me out for golf that Saturday as planned. He was waiting at the first tee when I arrived, 2 coffees in hand. You look like hell, he said, handing me one of the cups. Thanks, I replied dryly. Just what every newly single guy wants to hear. We played 3 holes before he brought it up again. So what exactly happened with Melissa? I lined up my shot, swung, and watched the ball sail into a bunker. Damn it, I muttered, then sighed. She said she needs a break and find herself. Basically, she wants to be single but keep me on the hook in case it doesn't work out. Nathan whistled low. Cold. Did you see it coming? Not really, I admitted as we walked toward our balls. Things have been a little off lately, but I thought it was just work stress. She's been pushing for a promotion at her firm. Turns out she was planning her exit strategy. That's rough, man. What are you going to do? I shrugged. What can I do? Move on, I guess. She's coming by tomorrow to get the rest of her stuff. I told her it's a breakup, not a break. Nathan nodded approvingly. Good. You can't let her string you along. After golf, we grabbed lunch at the clubhouse. Nathan was in the middle of telling me about a disaster date he'd been on when I spotted a familiar face at the bar. Jason Turner, one of our former college classmates who now worked at a rival financial firm. Isn't that Jason? Nathan asked, following my gaze. Yeah, haven't seen him in ages. Let's say hi, Nathan suggested, already standing up. Jason seemed genuinely pleased to see us. Ryan, Nathan, man, it's been, 2 years? Not since the alumni thing? We exchanged handshakes and the usual catching up questions. Jason had recently made partner at his firm and bought a condo downtown. When the conversation turned to relationships, I braced myself. I'm actually newly single, I said when Jason asked. As of this week. Damn, sorry to hear that. You and Melissa were together for a long time, right? I nodded, taking a swig of my beer. 5 years. Jason's expression shifted slightly. Melissa? Peterson? Works at Caldwell and Barnes? Yeah, I said, suddenly alert. You know her? He hesitated, glancing between Nathan and me. Not really. I mean, our firms have done some work together. I've met her at a few industry events. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. When was the last time you saw her? Ryan, Nathan warned quietly. Jason looked uncomfortable. Look, man, I don't want to get in the middle of anything. You're not, I assured him, keeping my voice casual despite the alarms going off in my head. Just curious, he sighed. I saw her at Vanguard last Friday. She was with some people from her firm, I think. It looked like a happy hour thing. Friday, the day before I returned from Chicago, the day before she sent her "I need to find myself" text. Thanks for the info, I said, forcing a smile. And congrats on making partner. That's huge. After they left, I walked through the house, noting the new absences. The space felt different now that all traces of Melissa were gone. Emptier, but somehow less suffocating. I went to the kitchen and opened a beer, then pulled out my phone and removed Melissa from my social media accounts. Not out of spite, but self-preservation. I didn't need to see updates about her new life of self-discovery. As I was putting my phone away, it buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hey, this is Olivia. Got your number from Melissa's phone a while back in case of emergency. I think you should know something. Can you talk? I stared at the message, surprise giving way to wariness. What could Melissa's sister possibly want to tell me? I hesitated, then replied, I'm free now. What's up? Three dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, not over text. Can I call you in 30 minutes when I'm alone? Curiosity won out over caution. Sure. Exactly 30 minutes later, my phone rang. Ryan? Olivia's voice sounded strained. Yeah, I'm here. What's going on, Olivia? She took a deep breath. Look, I don't know if I should be doing this, but it doesn't feel right to stay quiet. Melissa isn't just finding herself. There's someone else. Even though I'd suspected as much, hearing it confirmed sent a cold jolt through me. Who? A guy from her firm, Daniel Hoffman. He's one of the senior partners. The name was vaguely familiar. I'd met some of Melissa's colleagues at company events over the years, but I couldn't put a face to the name. How long? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. I'm not sure exactly, Olivia admitted, but at least a month, maybe longer. She's been staying at my place, but she's been out most nights. She says it's work, but she trailed off. But you don't believe her. I heard her on the phone with him last night. It wasn't a professional conversation. Let's put it that way. And she came home at 3 a.m. on Thursday. Thursday? The day before the Vanguard happy hour, while I was still in Chicago. Why are you telling me this? I asked. There was a pause. Because it's wrong what she's doing. She's my sister and I love her, but you deserve the truth. And honestly, I'm worried about her. Daniel is married. Of course he was. The hits just kept coming. His wife works at the same firm, Olivia continued. She's on maternity leave right now. They just had their second baby. I closed my eyes, trying to process this new information. Not only was Melissa leaving me for another man, but she was helping him cheat on his wife and newborn child. It was like discovering I'd been dating a stranger. Ryan, are you still there? Yeah, I said. Thanks for telling me, Olivia. I appreciate your honesty. I'm really sorry, she said, her voice small. For what it's worth, I think she's making a huge mistake, both with you and in with him. After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Part of me wished Olivia hadn't told me. It was easier to believe Melissa was on some genuine journey of self-discovery than to know she'd been lying to my face while sleeping with a married man. I picked up my beer, found it empty, and went to get another. As I stood in front of the open refrigerator, I realized I wasn't even angry anymore, just tired, and sad for the person I thought I knew. My phone buzzed again. Nathan. How did it go with Melissa? You alive? I typed back. Alive. Got an interesting call from her sister afterward. Turns out Melissa's finding herself in a married guy's bed. His reply was immediate. What? Call me. But I didn't want to talk about it anymore. Not tonight. Tomorrow, I texted back. Going to bed early. That was a lie. I stayed up until 2 a.m., going through old photos on my laptop, trying to pinpoint when things had changed, when Melissa had changed, or had she always been capable of this kind of deception, and I just hadn't seen it. Eventually, I closed the laptop without deleting anything. Those memories were still real. Even if the relationship hadn't been what I thought, I'd deal with the digital purge another day. The next month fell into a new rhythm. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects and staying late at the office. I started going to the gym regularly, working out until my muscles screamed. Anything to keep busy, to exhaust myself enough that I didn't lie awake at night wondering what I could have done differently. About a month after Melissa moved out, I was grabbing coffee at a shop near my office when I heard someone call my name. I turned to see Olivia standing in line behind me. Ryan, hi, she said, looking surprised but not displeased to see me. How are you? Surviving, I said honestly. You? Same. She glanced around the crowded coffee shop. Do you have a minute? I could use some company with it, my caffeine. I hesitated, then nodded. We got our drinks and found a small table in the corner. I'm surprised to see you in this part of town, I said. Don't you work on the west side? Doctor's appointment, she explained, just a checkup. But now I see why Melissa always raved about this place. Their lattes are amazing. The mention of Melissa created an awkward pause. Olivia fidgeted with her cup. Sorry, she said. I didn't mean to bring her up. It's fine, I assured her. We were together for 5 years. It would be weird to pretend she never existed. Olivia smiled slightly. That's a healthy attitude. I have my moments. I took a sip of my coffee. How is she anyway? Olivia's smile faded. Do you really want to know? I'm not sure, I admitted, but I asked, so I guess I do. She sighed. She's not great, actually. The thing with Daniel is getting complicated. His wife found some texts and confronted him. He told Melissa he needed to cool things down for a while to deal with the situation at home. I couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped me. So he's taking a break to deal with his home life? Ironic. Yeah, Olivia agreed. Melissa was pretty upset about it. She thought he was going to leave his wife for her. Seriously? They have a newborn. I know. I told her she was being naive, but Olivia shrugged. She's convinced they have this grand love story, that it's different with him than it was with anyone else. Including me, went the unspoken addition. Anyway, Olivia continued, she's been staying with me still, but it's getting tense. She's moody all the time, snapping at me over little things. I'm trying to be supportive, but it's hard when I think she's making terrible choices. You're a good sister, I said. Better than she deserves right now. Olivia looked down at her coffee. Maybe. I still feel guilty for telling you about Daniel, though. Don't, I said firmly. You did the right thing. I needed to know the truth. She nodded, then glanced at her watch. I should get going. My lunch break is almost over, and I need to get back to the office. It was good seeing you, Olivia, I said, surprised to find I meant it. You too, Ryan. She stood up, then hesitated. Would it be weird if we stayed in touch? Not about Melissa or anything, just as friends? The question caught me off guard. Olivia and I had never been close when I was dating her sister. But she'd been honest with me when she didn't have to be, and I found I liked talking to her. Not weird at all, I said. I'd like that. Her smile returned. Great. Maybe we could get coffee again sometime? Definitely. Over the next few weeks, Olivia and I met for coffee a few more times. Our conversations rarely touched on Melissa anymore. Instead, we discovered shared interests in hiking, true crime podcasts, and obscure indie films. It was nice to have a new friend, someone who didn't know me as half of Ryan and Melissa, but just as Ryan. Nathan teased me about it when I mentioned our coffee meetups. You're dating your ex's sister? That's bold, even for you. We're not dating, I protested. We're friends, that's it. He gave me a skeptical look. If you say so, just be careful. That's a whole new level of complicated. But it didn't feel complicated with Olivia. It felt easy, natural. We texted about random things during the day. A weird customer she dealt with at the publishing house where she worked. A ridiculous email from my boss. Recommendations for new podcasts to try. Simple, friendly exchanges that became a bright spot in my still adjusting life. 2 months after the breakup, I finally took Nathan's advice and booked that trip to Alaska I'd been talking about for years. A 10-day adventure tour with hiking, kayaking, and wildlife watching. I'd be going alone, but the tour group was small, just 8 people total. I was looking forward to the solitude, the chance to clear my head in one of the most beautiful places on earth. The night before I was set to leave, I was packing the last of my gear when my doorbell rang. It was late, past 9, and I wasn't expecting anyone. When I checked the peephole, my stomach dropped. Melissa. For a moment, I considered pretending I wasn't home, but she'd seen the lights on and my car was in the driveway. With a deep breath, I opened the door. What are you doing here, Ba? I asked, not bothering with the greeting. She looked terrible. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy. She wore an old sweatshirt I recognized as one of mine that she must have taken when she moved out. Can I come in? She asked, her voice raspy. Please, just for a minute." Against my better judgment, I stepped aside to let her in. She walked past me into the living room, then turned, wringing her hands. "I'm sorry to show up like this," she said. "I know it's late. What do you want, Melissa?" I kept my voice neutral, though my heart was racing. Seeing her in my house again was surreal. "I wanted to talk to you," she said, "to explain some things." "There's nothing to explain," I said. "We broke up. You moved on. End of story." She flinched. "It's not that simple, Ryan. I've made some mistakes. Big ones. Like sleeping with a married man." The words came out sharper than I intended. Her eyes widened. "You know about Daniel?" "Livia told me, right after you moved out." Melissa's expression hardened momentarily. "Of course she did." "Don't blame her," I said. "She did what you should have done. Told me the truth." "I was going to tell you eventually," she protested. I didn't know how." "How about Ryan? I'm leaving you for someone else. Simple, direct, honest." She sank onto the couch, suddenly looking exhausted. "It wasn't like that. Daniel and it just happened. I wasn't planning to leave you for him." "But you did," I pointed out. "So what changed?" "He told me that he was going to leave his wife," she said quietly, "that they were already having problems before I came along, that what we had was special." "And you believed him," I said, not bothering to hide my skepticism. She nodded miserably. "I did. I thought he was the one, Ryan, that what I felt for him was bigger than what I'd ever felt before." The admission stung even now. "So what happened? Why are you here instead of with him?" "He's not leaving his wife," she said, her voice breaking. "He said he can't do that to his kids, that we need to pause our relationship while he figures things out." "Sounds familiar," I noted dryly. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face now. "I know. I see the irony, believe me. I did to you exactly what he's doing to me now." I remained standing, unwilling to sit beside her, to offer the comfort she clearly wanted. "Is that what this visit is about? You want sympathy because your married boyfriend dumped you?" "No," she said quickly. "No, I came because I realized how badly I screwed up. With you, with everything." She took a shaky breath. "I miss you, Ryan. I miss us. I miss our life together." And there it was, the moment I'd both dreaded and secretly hoped for in those first few weeks after she left. Now that it was here, I felt nothing but a dull weariness. "Melissa," I said gently, "there is no us anymore. You ended that when you decided to look for something bigger with someone else." "I know," she whispered, "but maybe we could start over. Try again. I've learned so much about myself these past few months." "Stop," I cut her off. "Just stop. You didn't leave to find yourself. You left because you thought you found someone better. And now that that's fallen apart, you want to come back to your safe option. To me." "That's not fair," she protested. "What I feel for you is real." "Maybe it is," I allowed. "But it's not enough. It wasn't enough 2 months ago, and it's not enough now." She stood up, moving closer to me. "Ryan, please, give me another chance. I made a terrible mistake, but I've learned from it. We could be better than before." I stepped back, maintaining the distance between us. "No, Melissa, we can't, because I don't trust you anymore. And without trust, we have nothing." "You don't mean that," she said, reaching for my hand. "We had 5 years together. That means something." "It did," I agreed, moving my hand away from hers. "It meant everything to me. But you threw it away, and I can't go back to pretending it didn't happen." Her face crumpled. "So that's it? You won't even consider giving us another chance?" "There is no us," I repeated. "You need to accept that and move on, just like I have." "With Olivia?" she asked, her tone suddenly sharp. I blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "Don't play dumb," she said. "I know you've been seeing my sister." "We're friends," I said firmly. "We get coffee sometimes, that's all." "That's not what it looks like on her Instagram," Melissa countered. "The two of you at that indie film festival, having drinks at that rooftop bar. She's clearly into you." I shook my head, irritated by the accusation. "Even if that were true, which it isn't, it wouldn't be any of your business. You gave up the right to an opinion on my social life when you moved out. So you admit there's something going on, she pressed. No, I don't, I said, exasperated. But even if there was, it wouldn't change anything between us. We're done, Melissa. Please accept that. She stared at me for a long moment, tears still streaming down her face. Then without warning, she stepped forward and kissed me. I froze in surprise, then gently pushed her away. Don't, I said quietly. This isn't helping either of us. You felt something, she insisted. I know you did. What I feel is sad, I told her honestly. Sad for what we lost. Sad that it ended this way. But those feelings don't change the fact that we can't go back. She wiped at her tears with the sleeve of the sweatshirt. I still love you, Ryan. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. But that's not enough anymore. Finally, she nodded, seeming to accept defeat. I should go. That would be best, I agreed. After she left, I stood in the entryway for a long time, processing what had just happened. Part of me was shaken by the encounter, by the sight of Melissa so broken and desperate. Another part felt a strange sense of closure. She had wanted me back, and I had said no. The choice had been mine this time. My phone buzzed with a text. Olivia. Hey, just checking if we're still on for coffee when you get back from Alaska. No pressure if your schedule is too full. I smiled despite the emotional whiplash of the evening. Our friendship had become important to me, a bright spot in the aftermath of the breakup. Melissa's accusations about something more between us were off base. We were just friends. But I couldn't deny I enjoyed Olivia's company. Definitely still on, I texted back. I'll bring you a tacky souvenir. Her response came quickly. Perfect. I expect nothing less than a snow globe with a moose in it. I put my phone away and returned to packing. Tomorrow I would board a plane to Alaska, leaving behind the drama and complications of the past few months. 10 days of mountains, glaciers, and wilderness. A chance to reset, to find my own version of myself in the vastness of the last frontier. Alaska was everything I had hoped for and more. For 10 days, I barely thought about Melissa or the breakup or the complications waiting for me back home. When I returned, I settled back into my routine, but with a new sense of purpose. The trip had given me perspective, making me realize I might want a fresh start somewhere else. Maybe Seattle or Portland. Somewhere with mountains and water, where I could rebuild without constant reminders of what I'd lost. I met Olivia for coffee as planned, bringing her the promised moose snow globe. We were in the middle of a surprisingly serious conversation about my potential move when she suddenly leaned forward. Ryan, she said hesitantly, before you make any decisions about moving, I should tell you something. I think I'm developing feelings for you, more than friendship. The admission caught me off guard, though part of me had sensed it coming. Olivia, I know, she said quickly. It's complicated. You're my sister's ex. It's weird and messy and probably a terrible idea. But I can't stop thinking about you, and if you're going to move across the country, I needed you to know. I stared at her, processing this unexpected turn. The truth was, I'd been feeling something too. Something that had started as friendship, but had been evolving into more over the past weeks. It is complicated, I agreed. And yes, probably a terrible idea. I paused. But I've been feeling it too. Her eyes widened. Really? Really, I confirmed. But you're right, it's messy. Melissa would lose her mind. I know, Olivia sighed. I actually talked to her about us, hypothetically, the other day. She did not take it well. I can imagine. So where does that leave us? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Nathan's name flashed on the screen. I was about to ignore it when I remembered he knew I was meeting Olivia today. He wouldn't interrupt unless it was important. Sorry, I should take this, I said. It'll just be a second. Hey, Nathan, what's up? I asked, trying to keep the irritation from my voice. Ryan, his tone was urgent. Where are you right now? At Blackbird Coffee with Olivia. Why? You need to get out of there, now. What? Why? Melissa just called Emma, completely wasted in the middle of the day. She was ranting about how you and Olivia betrayed her, how she was going to confront you both. Emma tried to talk her down, but she hung up. We think she might be heading your way. Jesus, I muttered. Thanks for the heads up. We'll leave now. I ended the call and turned to Olivia. We need to go, now. What's wrong? She asked, alarmed. Melissa's on a rampage, I explained quickly. Nathan thinks she might be coming here to confront us. Olivia's face paled. She knows we meet here on Thursdays? Exactly. Let's go before... The cafe door banged open, and there she was. Melissa, wild-eyed and unsteady on her feet. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes wrinkled, as if she'd slept in them. Every head in the cafe turned toward her. There you are, she said loudly, her words slightly slurred. The happy couple. How sweet. Olivia and I exchanged a look of shared dismay. So much for a quick escape. Melissa, I said calmly, standing at the bed, you're making a scene. Let's talk outside. I don't want to talk outside, she snapped, moving unsteadily toward our table. I want everyone to hear how my sister stole my boyfriend. That's not what happened, Olivia said firmly, standing up as well. And you know it. Do I? Melissa laughed bitterly. Because it sure looks that way from where I'm standing. How long, Liv? How long were you waiting for your chance to swoop in? The cafe had gone quiet, everyone openly staring now. I moved between the sisters, lowering my voice. Melissa, you're drunk. Let me call you a car to take you home. I don't want to go home, she said, her voice breaking. I don't have a home anymore. Daniel's gone back to his wife. My sisters betrayed me. And you, she jabbed a finger at my chest. You were supposed to love me no matter what. That's not how it works, I said gently. You can't betray someone's trust and expect them to just forgive and forget. Like you're so perfect, she sneered. Mr. High and Mighty, you couldn't even see that your girlfriend was unhappy. I wasn't unhappy, I corrected her. You were bored. There's a difference. Her face crumpled. I made a mistake, Ryan. One mistake. Several mistakes, actually. Olivia cut in, her patience clearly at an end. Cheating on Ryan, getting involved with a married man with a newborn, spreading lies about us when we did nothing wrong. And now, making a public spectacle of yourself. You need help, Melissa. Real help. Don't talk to me about help, Melissa spat. You just want me out of the way so you can have him to yourself. That's enough, I said firmly. This isn't the time or place for this conversation. You're drunk, you're upset, and you're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself, she laughed again, that hollow, bitter sound. That's rich coming from the man who couldn't satisfy his girlfriend. That was it, the last straw. I'd been patient, understanding, even sympathetic to her pain, but I was done being her emotional punching bag. Melissa, I said, my voice deadly calm, we are over. We have been over for months. By your choice, not mine. Whatever issues you're having now are not my problem. Not anymore. You don't mean that, she whispered, suddenly looking very small and lost. I do, I assured her. Now, I'm going to call you a car. You're going to go home and sober up, and then you're going to leave me and Olivia alone, for good. I took out my phone and ordered a rideshare, ignoring Melissa's continued protests. While we waited, Olivia gathered our things, her face a mask of controlled anger and embarrassment. The car arrived within minutes. I gently but firmly guided Melissa outside and into the back seat, giving the driver her address and a generous tip in advance for dealing with a difficult passenger. This isn't over, Melissa called as the car pulled away. You'll see, you'll both regret this. We watched until the car turned the corner, then Olivia let out a long, shaky breath. Well, she said weakly, that was a nightmare, I suggested. I was going to say dramatic, but nightmare works too. She looked around at the other cafe patrons, some of whom were still watching us through the windows. I don't think we can come back here for a while. Probably not, I agreed. I'm sorry about that. It was my favorite coffee place. Mine too, she sighed. Ryan, I'm sorry about Melissa. I had no idea she was still so unstable. It's not your fault, I assured her. None of this is your fault. The next evening, I received a text from Olivia. Have you heard from Melissa? No, I replied. Oui, boy. Her response sent a chill through me. She's in the hospital. She took a bunch of pills last night with alcohol. They had to pump her stomach. My stomach dropped. Is she okay? Physically, yes. They're keeping her for psychiatric evaluation. Olivia's next text came quickly. I need to go there. Now. Of course, I said immediately. I'll drive you. No, I should go alone. Family only right now. She hesitated. I'm sorry about lunch. About everything. Don't apologize, I said. Just go. Take care of your sister. We'll talk later. As the taxi pulled away, I stood on the sidewalk, torn between concern for Melissa, despite everything, I didn't wish her harm, and frustration at the timing. Once again, her chaos had interrupted a pivotal moment between Olivia and me. But this was different. This wasn't a drunken scene in a cafe. This was a cry for help, a sign that Melissa was in even more pain than any of us had realized. Whatever resentment I felt toward her, I couldn't ignore the gravity of this situation. I sent Olivia a text. Thinking of you and your family. Here if you need anything at all. Her reply came hours later, just a single heart emoji. It was enough to let me know she was okay, that we were okay, even in the midst of this new crisis. The next few days passed in a fog of worry and uncertainty. Olivia sent occasional brief updates. Melissa was still in the hospital, now in the psychiatric ward for observation and treatment. Their parents had flown in from Florida. The doctors were talking about depression, anxiety, possibly even borderline personality disorder. On the fourth day after Melissa's hospitalization, I received a text from Olivia. Coffee tomorrow? Need to see a friendly face. We met at a different cafe than our usual spot. Olivia looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes and a weariness in her posture that hadn't been there before. Hey, I said softly as she slid into the seat across from me. How are you holding up? Honestly, not great. She ran a hand through her hair, which looked like it hadn't been washed in a day or two. It's been intense, boss. I can imagine, I said, though truthfully I couldn't. How's Melissa doing? Better physically, she said. Emotionally, it's complicated. The doctors say this wasn't necessarily a serious suicide attempt, more of a cry for help, but it's still scary as hell. I nodded, letting her talk at her own pace. She's been diagnosed with major depression and borderline personality disorder, Olivia continued. Apparently she's had symptoms for years, but they've gotten worse recently with all the stress and, well, everything that happened with you and Daniel. I had no idea, I said honestly, about the mental health issues, I mean. None of us did, not really, Olivia admitted. Looking back, there were signs, her impulsivity, the mood swings, the intense fear of abandonment. But she always seemed so put together on the surface that we never connected the dots. What happens now? I asked. She'll be in the hospital for at least another week. Then intensive outpatient therapy, medication management, the works. Olivia sighed. My parents are talking about her moving to Florida to be near them for a while. That might be good for her, I suggested. A complete change of scenery away from all the reminders here. Maybe, Olivia agreed, though I worry about her being isolated from her support system. But they have good treatment centers there too. So, she shrugged, clearly overwhelmed by the decisions ahead. And how are you doing with all this? I asked gently. It must be a lot to process. She gave me a wan smile. I'm functioning. Barely. The guilt is the worst part. Guilt? Why would you feel guilty? Because I was so angry at her, Olivia explained. For what she did to you, for the rumors she spread about us. I was judging her instead of seeing that she was spiraling. She looked down at her untouched coffee. And now, with what's happening between us, it feels wrong somehow, like I'm betraying her when she's at her lowest. My heart sank. I understand. No, wait, she said quickly, reaching for my hand. I'm not saying I want to stop, whatever this is between us. I'm just saying it's complicated right now. My head is a mess and I need to focus on my family for a bit. Of course, I said, squeezing her hand. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. The next 2 weeks passed slowly. Olivia and I texted regularly but didn't see each other in person. She was juggling visits to the hospital, time with her parents, and her demanding new role at work. I threw myself into my job, hitting deadlines early and taking on additional projects to keep busy. Melissa was released from the hospital and, as expected, moved to Florida with her parents. According to Olivia, she was settling into a treatment program there and seemed genuinely committed to getting better. The physical distance made it easier for all of us, creating space for healing without the constant risk of painful encounters. One evening, as I was catching up on emails at home, my phone rang with Olivia's number. Hey, I answered, pleasantly surprised. How are you? Better, she said, and she sounded it, more rested, more like herself. Much better, actually. My parents flew back to Florida yesterday with Melissa, and I finally have my apartment to myself again. I think I slept for 12 hours straight last night. You needed it? I said. You've been running on fumes for weeks. True. There was a pause, then. I miss you. The simple admission made my heart race. I miss you too, a lot. Are you free tomorrow night? I thought maybe we could have dinner. Somewhere nice, not just coffee or takeout. I'd love that, I said, trying not to sound too eager. What did you have in mind? There's a new Italian place on Elm Street that's supposed to be amazing. I could make a reservation for 7? Perfect, Blonde, I agreed. I'll pick you up at 6:30. It's a date, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. The next evening, I arrived at Olivia's apartment building precisely at 6:30, a small bouquet of flowers in hand. It was a gesture that felt both old-fashioned and right, a marker that this was different from our usual friendly meetups. Olivia opened the door, looking stunning, in a simple black dress I'd never seen before. Her hair was styled in loose waves, and she wore more makeup than usual, highlighting her warm brown eyes. You look beautiful, I said, handing her the flowers. She blushed slightly. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. The restaurant was everything Olivia had promised. Intimate, but not pretentious, with soft lighting and excellent food. We lingered over antipasti and pasta, sharing a bottle of red wine and falling into the easy conversation that had characterized our friendship from the beginning. It wasn't until dessert arrived, a tiramisu to share, that Olivia brought up the subject we'd been dancing around all evening. So, she said, setting down her fork, where do we go from here? I took a deep breath. Wherever you want, Olivia. I care about you a lot, but I know the situation is complicated, and I don't want to rush you into anything. She nodded thoughtfully. I care about you too. More than I expected to when we first started getting coffee together. She paused. But I need to be honest about something. My heart skipped a beat. Okay. I talked to Melissa about us, she said, before she left for Florida. I felt like I needed to, given everything that's happened. What did she say? I asked, not sure I wanted to hear the answer. She was surprisingly okay with it, Olivia said, sounding slightly bewildered even now. Not thrilled, obviously, but she said she's in no position to tell either of us what to do. That she forfeited that right when she made the choices she did. That's mature of her, I said, genuinely surprised. I think the therapy is helping, Olivia said. She's starting to take responsibility for her actions, to see how her choices affected other people. It's a process, but it's a start. That's good, I said sincerely. I'm glad she's getting help. Olivia nodded. Me too, and it makes this, she gestured between us, feel less like a betrayal, less complicated. So where does that leave us? I asked, echoing her earlier question. She smiled, reaching across the table to take my hand. It leaves us here, on a real date, finally, with the possibility of more dates to follow, if that's what you want. It is, I said, squeezing her hand gently. Very much. The rest of the evening passed in a pleasant blur. After dinner, we walked through the nearby park holding hands and talking about everything and nothing. When I drove us home, she invited me up for coffee, a transparent excuse that we both saw through but pretended to take seriously. In her apartment, with soft music playing in the background, we sat close together on her sofa, the pretense of coffee forgotten. When I finally kissed her, it felt like the culmination of months of growing feelings, of connection deepening into something more. I've wanted to do that for a while, I admitted when we pulled apart. Me too, she confessed, her eyes bright. But I'm glad we waited. It feels right now. It does, I agreed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Worth the wait. As I drove home later that night, I found myself smiling. After months of emotional turmoil, of betrayal and chaos and hurt, something good had emerged, something that felt real and right and promising. Life was complicated, relationships were messy, people made mistakes, hurt each other, tried to heal. But sometimes, unexpectedly, beauty grew from the wreckage. New beginnings emerge from painful endings. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Made it home safely? I smiled at her concern. Just pulling into my driveway now. Tonight was perfect. Her response came quickly. It was. Can't wait for tomorrow. Me neither, I texted back. Sweet dreams. As I got ready for bed that night, I realized I hadn't thought about Melissa once during our date. Her shadow was finally lifting, allowing something new and hopeful to grow in its place.